Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my diet philosophy. So I've never done a video here on my channel specifically talking about this. However, I have talked so much about intuitive eating and listening to my body and not being on any kind of specific diet. And that is pretty much what I do. However, there are definitely some things that I do think about when it comes to my diet other than just listening to my body. I do keep it pretty simple, but I've never done a video where I share all of those things kind of neatly tied up with a bow, at once. They're just things that I talk about all throughout my videos. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over the, like principles or guidelines I kind of live by when it comes to my diet. Now, before I even dive in, I just want to say that these are absolutely in no way rules that I live by. I don't think that we should live by food rules unless it's like medically necessary, because it just creates a lot of drama in your life, and who needs to overcomplicate an already, everyone's lives are complicated, right? So I absolutely do not live by these as if they're rules. I do not live by them as a T or to a T. Again, they're just guidelines and things I like to live by, and I do not live by these to achieve a certain body or to achieve some level of health or even, anything like physical or that I'm trying to attain. It really is just to make me feel good. And I follow these principles, guidelines, whatever, as best I can so that I can live my personal healthiest life. And it's just what makes me feel my best. Okay, principle number one, and probably the most important principle. All of the principles that I'm about to go over, it is okay to completely throw them out the window sometimes. Yes, it is absolutely okay to do that. Like I said, I don't follow them to a T. They are not rules. And if they ever become rules, that's no longer healthy. So all the principles that I'm about to go over, they can all be completely tossed out sometimes, and that is absolutely okay. And like I said, these principles that I try to live by are in place to make me feel good and feel my best. So obviously if I were to completely throw them out of my life, totally, I probably wouldn't feel my best. And that is not really listening to my body. That's not being a healthy version of myself. And that's not what I want. But it is totally okay to not worry about these things from time to time, throw out all of the guidelines and just live life, because that is what life is all about. And there is so much more to it than following a specific diet or having some kind of diet rules that you live and die by. There is so much more out there and so much more to enjoy than just what we eat. Principle number two is to listen to my body. So I talk about this so much here on my channel, and I really do think it's important. I think that intuitive eating is truly the best way to live a sustainable, healthy, lifelong healthy life. That makes sense. And when I say listen to my body, I am not just talking about, eating when I'm hungry and stopping when I'm full. That is like the most basic boiled down, not even boiled down, it's just one part of listening to your body, hunger and fullness cues. It is important to honor them if you want to feel your best. Of course, honoring doesn't mean living and dying by, but that's just one part of it. It's also tuning in and, paying attention to what my body wants, what I'm craving. And since I do eat lots of healthy food, a lot of times my cravings are for healthy food, but sometimes I crave ice cream and I crave pizza. And when those cravings come around, if I just try and ignore them and eat something else to get rid of the craving, it usually doesn't work, right? So I'm better off just enjoying the ice cream, going out for pizza and just savoring it and just really being satisfied, and then I can move right along. Also, I have found that listening to my body is just so important because we change on a daily basis, especially as women. Our hormones are constantly fluctuating. I've done a whole video on that if you guys want to check it out, throughout your cycle, how your hormones fluctuate and how they dictate how you can feel. But since we are constantly, fluctuating on a daily basis, I have just found that listening to my body and trusting what it's asking for and what it's telling me is the best internal compass for just navigating daily life and just listening to when it tells me to eat and how much in that moment, and then even what I eat, which isn't, what exactly you're having to eat isn't fully in your control. Obviously sometimes we pack lunches or we go over to, a dinner, someone else is hosting dinner or, whatever. We're not fully in control of that all the time, and that's okay. But listening to what to eat and how to eat and when to eat, just taking all of that into consideration on a daily basis, because we do change and we're not static robots. So just listening to that and trusting that helps me so much to just get what I need in that moment. And again, it could change the next day, but I'm gonna listen to my body, so it's all good. And if you guys want more information on like how this works and like what intuitive eating is and like what physically listening to your body actually means, you should totally read the book Intuitive Eating by Evelyn Tribal and Elise Resch, I believe is how you say their names. They're basically the two women that pioneered the intuitive eating movement, and it's an incredible book. I recommend it to like everyone. So if you want more information on that, I mean, I've talked about it at length here on my channel. I've got lots of videos, but that is an awesome book that I would totally recommend. Principle number 3 is blood sugar control. So this is not something that I obsess over, but it is absolutely something that I keep in mind. And I don't necessarily worry about or think about blood sugar from like a disease prevention standpoint, which is just kind of like a bleak outlook. But, you know, nobody wants diabetes because it's like the worst thing to manage. It's not fun. So of course, preventing that is, you know, a good idea. It's ideal. But I personally think about and take blood sugar into consideration because it helps me feel my best, you know, actually feel good physically, but also it helps so much to help you feel energized. And also as women, blood sugar definitely plays a role. Again, not something I obsess over, but something I do think about. It plays a role in our hormones, and it is important that we, you know, pay attention to what we're eating as far as how it's going to impact our blood sugar if we want to have steady, stable, regulated hormones. There's a whole lot of other stuff that goes into having regulated hormones, but that is one of them, and that again is another reason that I kind of look out for it. Now, if you're wondering, you know, what the hell do I do to pay attention to my blood sugar, I have done an entire video on blood sugar. It's in the Nutrition 101 series. I think everyone should know about blood sugar, so aka everyone should watch that video. Not just people with diabetes. Blood sugar affects everyone, and you know, eating in a way that minimizes the impacts on your blood sugar is definitely ideal for everyone. I think it is so important and something that like people don't necessarily know about or think about on a regular basis. So definitely go watch that video because I go in depth about what exactly impacts it and how to eat to minimize, you know, blood sugar spikes and dips and all of that. But in a nutshell, I just try, and every time that I eat, and again, I'm not perfect, I don't obsess over it, and sometimes I throw this principle out the window, but I do, majority of the time when I'm eating, I do think about how this food is going to break down into sugar and therefore spike my blood sugar. So I try and eat balanced meals and snacks, protein, fat, carbs. I do not cut out carbs by any means. Ladies, we need carbs, especially if we are in our younger fertile years. So important. Stop cutting out carbs. But I definitely do not cut them out whatsoever. I just try and, whenever I'm eating carbs or anything in general, like I said, I try and eat in a way that is smart so that it just minimizes the impact on my blood sugar so that it doesn't go haywire all the time. Principle number 4 is to eat food in its most original form as much as possible, but not just in its original form, but also how it was originally prepared or raised. So for example, that would be eating organic produce. So again, I'm not perfect. I don't eat organic 100% of the time, but I certainly do make an effort to do so. And the reason for that is because if you think, you know, 100+ years ago, traditionally, we didn't have organic and conventional crops. We just had food that was grown in the ground without any of and all these interventions. But as time goes on and we have more technology and big businesses get involved that want to, you know, increase their profits, make more money, they started introducing, you know, ways like insecticides, you know, so that way we're not losing crops because bugs are eating them. We can just spray them with these chemicals so the bugs don't touch them, and there we go, voila, we have so much more output, more product that we can sell and make more money. But then, you know, we are spraying chemicals on those food that we end up eating, and by the time we eat them, maybe it's only trace amounts, maybe it's more than trace amounts. Still up for debate. It's a hotly debated topic, but you know, if I can eliminate that as much as possible, then I personally feel that that is a good choice for me. And like I said, I don't eat organic 100% of the time. I am not a perfect person, but I do try my best when it comes to produce, and then especially with like meat and dairy and eggs. And when it comes to produce, a tip for you guys that I have shared here before, on my channel before, but that is to go on the EWG website. EWG stands for Environmental Working Group, and every year they test like all the produce, and they come out with 2 lists. They come out with a Dirty Dozen and a Clean 15 list. The Dirty Dozen has the top 12 most the produce items, fruits and veggies, that had the most pesticide residue, and then the Clean 15 is the top 15 that had the least. So if you can't afford to buy all organic, or maybe it's not even available to you because we don't live in a perfect world where we have endless money and access, so using those lists can help you kind of determine, you know, ways to improve your consumption of organic foods in a way that is reasonable. And also, like I said, meat and dairy and eggs, I feel for me it is very important to eat organic versions of those foods, and not just organic, but also for me it's important to think about how the animals were raised. You know, what is their food source, what kind of situation do they live in, and by that I mean, are they pasture raised? Are they grazing on pasture and eating grass? Are they grass fed? Both chickens and cows and, you know, all the other animals. So the reason that I personally think about this is because I personally just don't really want to support CAFA farms, meaning concentrated animal feeding operations. I would much rather support farmers who are letting animals live their lives how they're supposed to, grazing on pasture and not being shoved into these feeding operations. I just personally don't feel like I want to support that. But also, like what animals eat completely affects the nutritional components and the nutritional value of their, you know, whether it's meat or milk or eggs or whatever. So for example, if you have chickens that are, or cows that are fed corn and soy food, like, you know, feed, instead of grazing on grass and eating bugs and grass and weeds and what they're meant to be eating, what they're designed to eat, their eggs and their meat and their milk is actually going to be not as nutritionally robust as those animals that were fed grass-fed, you know, diets, who were pasture raised. So it really truly does affect. It's not just a moral issue per se, but for me it's also, in addition, the fact that the nutritional value of animals who were raised the way that they were meant to be raised, it's completely different. Like, it really does make a huge difference. For example, vitamin K2 doesn't really exist in the milk and meat of cows who were fed non-grass diets, who were just on some kind of feed. And you'll see, if you crack open an egg from a chicken that's from some kind of feeding operation versus a chicken or an egg from a pasture-raised chicken that grazes on grass, you'll see that the egg yolk from the pasture-raised chicken is dark orange versus like a bright lighter yellow. And that is because that yolk, the orange yolk, is so much more nutrient packed than the one that is yellow. And again, I am not perfect. I'm not a perfect person. I do my absolute best when I'm shopping as a consumer to buy foods that are real and whole, you know, as original as possible, and also raised the way that they were traditionally raised. But again, I'm not perfect, and of course, like when I go out to eat at restaurants, I don't necessarily know where that stuff is coming from. You can choose restaurants that are more conscious of this, and that is something I do try and do. But again, I'm not perfect. I don't live and die by these principles, but I really do try and honor them as much as possible, because it just makes me feel my best, and I feel like I'm able to live my personal healthiest life that way. So that is it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed hearing my principles that I live by. I really do keep it pretty simple. That is just the main things that I think about when it comes to diet, and I just try and live my life, you know, be happy and free and also healthy, because that is when I feel my best. But of course not missing out on all the fun parts of life when it comes to food, because I mean, it's delicious. But that is it for today's video. So if you guys have yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd absolutely love to have you here in my little community. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram so we can hang out on there. But that is all. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Show you off.